Welcome back to Cyberspace, the show where we dive into the fascinating intersections of technology and human psychology. I'm your host, Leslie Poston, and today we're tackling a topic that's got everyone from preschoolers to professors talking: the psychological impact of technology in education. We're going to explore how cutting-edge technologies are reshaping the educational landscape, affecting students, teachers, and the learning process itself. From AI-enhanced learning tools to the integration of neuroscience in education, we'll uncover the promises and pitfalls of our brave new digital classroom. So whether you're a tech enthusiast ready to replace textbooks with virtual reality headsets, or a skeptic who thinks the best interface is still a human face, stick around. We're going to explore the psychological impact of the digital landscape of modern education, where algorithms meet adolescence and data intersects with developmental psychology. Let's talk a bit about the AI invasion of classrooms, or how I learned to stop worrying and love the algorithm. We'll kick things off with the elephant in the room, or should I say, the robot in the classroom. Artificial intelligence has been making its way into education at a pace that's leaving many of us breathless. But before we start planning retirement parties for human teachers, let's look at what AI is really bringing to the table. A study by Esqueta and colleagues found that AI-powered personalized learning systems can improve student performance by up to 30%. These silicon-brained tutors are adapting to individual learning speeds, offering tailored feedback, and never getting tired of explaining that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, over and over again. AI systems are also democratizing education in ways we've never seen before. They're providing high-quality resources across diverse geographical and socioeconomic landscapes, potentially leveling the playing field for students who might not have access to the best schools or the best teachers. But let's not get carried away. While AI is great at crunching numbers and spitting out facts, it's not so hot at understanding the complex emotional and social aspects of learning. A 2020 review by Luckin et al. Reminds us that AI systems still struggle with nuanced communication and emotional intelligence. So while AI might be able to teach your kid algebra, it's probably not going to be much help when they're grappling with the existential crisis of choosing their college major. The challenge moving forward will be to find the right balance between AI-assisted learning and good old-fashioned human interaction. And what about neuroeducation? Because brain-based learning sounds cooler than learning when we say it. It's the field where neuroscience and education come together to revolutionize how we learn and how we teach. It's all about understanding how our brains process information and using that knowledge to design better teaching strategies. Here's where it gets really interesting. Neuroeducation is showing us that our brains are far from standardized. What works for one student might be completely ineffective for another. This insight is driving a push for more personalized learning experiences tailored to each student's unique cognitive profile. A study from the University of Bristol found that neuroeducation-based approaches can boost memory retention up to 25%. That's a significant improvement in how we store and recall information. Imagine being able to remember 25% more of what you learned in school. Maybe you'd finally be able to recall more than 2 lines of that Shakespeare sonnet you were forced to memorize in ninth grade. However, before we get too excited about scanning every kid's brain for the optimal way to teach them long division, let's remember that the brain is incredibly complex. A study by Bowers from 2016 cautioned that while neuroeducation holds promise, we're still in the early stages of understanding how to apply it effectively in real-world classrooms. And frankly, in 2024, not much has changed. The potential of neuroeducation is huge, especially for students with learning differences. By understanding the neural basis of conditions like dyslexia or ADHD, we might be able to develop more effective interventions and support strategies, alleviating the psychological stress that robs some of our neurodivergent students of the joy of learning. But it's not a magic bullet. Implementing these insights in real classrooms with real kids is a challenge that will require ongoing research and careful testing. There's a dark side to the screens, however. Let's address these potential downsides of all this tech and education. Because let's face it, not everything that glitters is educational gold. A study by Takuchi et al., published in the Journal of Cognitive Neuroscience, found that excessive screen time can alter neural circuits, potentially reducing the depth of learning that occurs through traditional means. In other words, all those hours spent swiping and tapping might be rewiring our brains in ways we do not fully understand yet. But wait, there's more. A study by Twenge and Campbell for the American Psychological Association reports that increased screen time is linked to higher rates of anxiety and depression among students. It's a bit ironic that the very tools we're using to enhance education may also be undermining our students' mental health. So what's an educator to do? Throw all the tablets out the window and go back to slate and chalk? Not quite. The challenge lies in finding that sweet spot between leveraging technology's benefits and preserving the irreplaceable aspects of human interaction in education. Some schools are experimenting with tech-free days or tech-free zones, giving students a break from the constant digital stimulation. Others are incorporating mindfulness practices to help students manage the stress and anxiety that can come with constant connectivity. The key seems to be balance and intentionality. We need to be thoughtful about how and when we use technology in education, always keeping in mind the overall well-being of our students. After all, what good is that perfect SAT score if it comes at the cost of the student's mental health? Are teachers versus technology the ultimate cage match? Let's spare a thought for those unsung heroes of the educational technology revolution, our teachers. These brave souls are on the front lines, trying to integrate new tech faster than you can say software update required. A study by Selwyn and colleagues from the University of Cambridge found that while most teachers recognize the potential benefits of educational technologies, many still experience stress and anxiety related to keeping up with the pace of change. It's like being asked to run a marathon while simultaneously learning to juggle and speak Klingon. There's also a growing fear among educators about becoming obsolete, but let's be real. No AI can replicate the look of disappointment on Mrs. Johnson's face when you forgot to do your homework. That's a uniquely human skill that no algorithm has mastered yet. The key here is support and training. We can't expect our teachers to become tech wizards overnight. Schools and districts need to invest in professional development that goes beyond "have you tried turning it off and on again?" We must empower our teachers to become captains of their digital ships and not just passengers along for the ride. Some innovative schools are pairing tech-savvy students with teachers in a reverse mentoring program. It's a win-win. Teachers get up to speed on the latest tech, and students get a chance to share their expertise and see teachers in a new light. But that's not the right solution for everyone. The role of teacher is evolving, not disappearing. In a world where information is at our fingertips, teachers are becoming more important than ever as guides, mentors, and critical thinkers who can help students navigate a sea of information and misinformation that's out there. Educators are constantly doing a high-tech, high-touch tango. How do they balance all the shiny new tech with the good old-fashioned human touch? It's a delicate dance, and we're all still learning the steps. Research from Imordino Yang et al. Stresses the importance of maintaining emotional connections and learning environments. Because let's face it, no matter how advanced our AI becomes, it's not going to appreciate your student's interpretive essay about photosynthesis. The goal should be to use technology to enhance human interaction and not replace it. Think of it as giving teachers superpowers, not trying to turn them into robots. Use AI to handle the grunt work of grading multiple choice tests, freeing up teachers to have meaningful discussions with students. Let virtual reality take kids on field trips to ancient Rome, but have a real live teacher there to guide the experience and to answer questions. Some schools are finding creative ways to blend high-tech and high-touch approaches. For example, use video conferencing to connect students with peers around the world, fostering cultural exchange and global understanding. Or use social-emotional learning apps to encourage students to reflect on their feelings and their experiences, and follow up with in-person discussions and real support. The key is to remember that technology is a tool, not a teacher. The most effective educational experiences will likely be those that leverage the best of both worlds, the efficiency and personalization of technology with the empathy and adaptability of our human teachers and their human interaction. Technology in the classroom can be an ethical minefield. As we continue to integrate technology into education, we're wading into an ethical swamp that would make even the most seasoned philosopher scratch their head. First up, data privacy. We're collecting more data on students than ever before, tracking everything from their learning progress to their browsing habits. A 2020 study by the Center for Democracy and Technology found that 86% of teachers increased their use of technology for student learning during the pandemic, which raised concerns about data protection. Then there's the issue of equitable access. Not every student has a high-speed internet connection or the latest iPad. A report from Chandra et al. In Common Sense Media showed that about 30% of K-12 public school students in the U.S. lack adequate internet or devices for distance learning. It's a stark reminder that as we rush to embrace new technologies, we risk leaving a significant portion of our students behind. MIT researchers Reich and Ido warn that, without careful implementation, educational technology could widen the gap between these different socioeconomic groups, rather than close it. It's a classic case of the rich getting richer, just with more gigabytes. So what's the solution? We need policies that ensure equitable access to educational technologies. We need robust data protection measures that would make even the most paranoid cybersecurity expert nod in approval. And we need to constantly question and evaluate the ethical implications of any tech-driven educational practices. Some schools are tackling these issues head-on. They're partnering with local businesses and community organizations to provide devices and internet access to students in need. Others are being transparent with parents about what data they're collecting and how it's being used, giving families more control over their children's digital footprints. As we navigate these murky ethical waters, it's critical that we keep the best interest of our students at the forefront. Technology has the potential to be a great equalizer in education, but only if we're intentional about how we implement it. Let's talk about the cheating conundrum when AI becomes the ultimate study buddy. Let's address that elephant in the chat room, cheating in the age of AI. Remember when the height of academic dishonesty was scribbling answers on your palm or your shoe? Well, welcome to 2024, where students have AI writing their entire essays faster than you can say plagiarism checker. A study by Turnitin found that AI-written content in student work increased by 1,300% between January and June 2023. That's not a typo, that's 1,300%, as if we've entered an arms race between AI-powered cheating and AI-powered cheat detection. However, I'm going to ask that you take that study with a grain of salt. Turnitin itself has become known for a high number of false positives in plagiarism detection, especially when asked to determine if AI helped write a paper. This has led to students that turned in original work failing classes and, in some cases, being put on academic probation for things they did not do. This has become an issue with writing helpers like Grammarly as well, the very writing helpers that schools have been encouraging their students to use. Currently, there is no foolproof way to detect AI in writing. But here's where it gets interesting. Research from Stanford University in 2023 by Reich et al. Suggests that the rise of AI in education is forcing us to rethink what we mean by cheating altogether. After all, if AI can write an essay, maybe we should be teaching students how to effectively use AI tools rather than trying to ban them outright. However, that shift is not without its psychological impacts. Dr. Sarah Thompson from MIT points out that relying too heavily on AI for academic work can lead to a phenomenon she calls intellectual outsourcing, where students become overly dependent on AI to do their thinking for them. So what's the solution? Well, some educators are getting creative. A 2023 survey by EdWeek found that 68% of teachers are changing their assignments to be AI-proof, focusing more on in-class discussion, in-class presentation, and hands-on projects. The key here is to teach digital literacy and the ethical use of AI tools. We need to help students understand when it's appropriate to use AI assistance and when it's important to flex their own mental muscle. Because let's face it, in the real world, knowing how to effectively use AI might be just as important as knowing how to write without it. Is a virtual reality classroom more than just really expensive video games? Well, let's strap on our virtual reality headsets and step into the world of VR education. Virtual reality in education is growing faster than a teenager in a growth spurt. The market for VR in education is projected to reach $13 billion by 2026, according to a 2021 report by Fortune Business Insights. But here's where it gets really interesting from a psychological perspective. A study by Herrera and colleagues, published in the Journal of Computer Assisted Learning, found that students using VR for learning showed a 30% increase in empathy levels compared to traditional learning methods. It turns out that walking a mile in someone else's virtual shoes can actually make you a better person. VR is also showing promise in helping students with special needs. Research from Lorenzo et al. At the University of Valencia demonstrated that VR-based interventions improved social skills in autistic children by up to 45%. Before we go all Ready Player One on this, let's pump the brakes a bit. Dr. Jeremy Bailenson from Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab warns about potential psychological risks of prolonged VR use, including disorientation and a phenomenon he calls reality blurring. So, as with all things in education and technology, the key is balance. VR has the potential to revolutionize how we learn and how we experience the world, but it should not replace real-world experiences entirely. After all, there's no virtual reality headset that can replicate the smell of formaldehyde in biology class. Maybe that's a good thing. We wonder if the gamification of education puts learning on expert mode. So let's level up our discussion and talk about gamification in education. Gamification is the application of game design elements in non-game contexts, and it's taking the education world by storm. A meta-analysis by Bai et al., published in Educational Psychology Review, found that gamification in education can lead to a 17% increase in student achievement. That's like getting a power-up for your brain. But it's not just about slapping points and badges on everything. The real power of gamification lies in its ability to tap into our psychological need for achievement, competition, and yes, even failure. Dr. Jane McGonigal, a game designer and researcher, argues that games are actually teaching us resilience and problem-solving skills that are crucial in the real world. However, gamification is not all fun and, well, games. Critics argue that it can lead to an overemphasis on extrinsic motivation. A study in 2015 by Haynes and Fox in Computers in Education found that while gamification can increase engagement in the short term, it may decrease intrinsic motivation over time if not implemented carefully. The key, as always, is in the implementation. Effective gamification should enhance the learning experience and not replace it. It should encourage collaboration as much as competition and foster a growth mindset where failing is just another opportunity to learn and try again. As we continue to explore the gamification of education, remember, the goal is not to turn every classroom into an arcade, but to harness the power of play to make learning as engaging and effective as possible. We just did a speed run through the wild world of educational technology, and what a trip it's been. From AI tutors and brain-based learning to virtual reality field trips and gamified algebra, we've seen that the future of education is exciting, a little scary, and full of potential. And let's face it, we're not just changing how we learn, we're rewiring the very nature of education itself. We're in a brave new world where cheating has gone high-tech, empathy can be taught through a VR headset, and your homework might actually be more engaging than the mobile game you can't stop playing. But as we've discovered, with great technology comes great responsibility. We're grappling with a Pandora's box of challenges like how do we harness AI without turning our students into intellectual couch potatoes? Can we use VR to build empathy without losing touch with, actual reality? Is it possible to gamify learning without turning education into a never ending grind for XP? And for the love of all things digital, how do we ensure that this tech revolution doesn't leave half of our students in the dust? The key, as we said before and we'll probably say again, is balance. We need to embrace the power of technology while holding on to the irreplaceable human elements of education. We need teachers who are part educator, part tech guru, and part digital ethicist. We need students who can navigate both digital and physical worlds with equal skill. And we need parents and policymakers who understand that, yes, education is changing, and no, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, what are the final takeaways from our journey through this digital education landscape? Let's creating learning environments that are technologically savvy but not tech obsessed, data driven but not data controlled, personalized but not isolating, engaging but not addictive, challenging but not overwhelming, and above all, focused on growing not just smarter humans but better ones. At the end of the day, the most powerful educational tool is not made of silicone or powered by electricity. It's the endlessly adaptable, infinitely curious, occasionally frustrating, but always amazing human brain. As we navigate this brave new world of edutech, let's strive to create learning environments that are as psychologically nurturing as they are technologically advanced. We need to be as excited about emotional intelligence as we are about artificial intelligence. We need to ensure that our pursuit of personalized learning doesn't come at the cost of our collaborative skills. And we must guarantee that in our race to digitize education, we don't leave behind the students who lack access to these technologies. For educators, this means staying curious and continuing to learn. The classroom of tomorrow will require a blend of traditional teaching skills and technological savvy. It's about using tech to enhance your teaching, not to replace your invaluable human insight and connection. And for students, remember that while AI might help you ace your tests, it's your uniquely human qualities that will help you succeed in life. Critical thinking, creativity, empathy, and adaptability are skills that no AI can truly replicate. Use technology as a tool, but don't let it do your thinking for you. For parents and policymakers, your role is critical in shaping this new educational landscape. Advocate for responsible tech integration in schools. Push for policies that address the digital divide and that ensure all students have access to this new learning technology. At home, model a healthy relationship with technology for your children. As we close out this episode of Cyberspace, remember that the future of education is not set in stone, or should we say in silicone. It's being shaped right now by educators, researchers, tech developers, and people just like you who are engaging with these important ideas and issues. I'm your host, Leslie Poston, signing off. And remember, until next time, stay curious.